Have you ever heard of a place where the Earth is on the verge of extinction, literally sinking? What about ancestral rituals that determine a person's destiny from a young age? Now imagine a tradition where boys are forced to take on the role of girls by their own families. In one of the most remote corners of the planet, there is a group of islands where time seems to follow its own rules. Today, Bello Mundo will take you to Polynesia, a place where devastating natural phenomena and customs that span generations defy all expectations. Number 1. Location and geographical data. Let's start by clearing up a common confusion: the difference between the Polynesians. Many people, when they hear of Polynesia, immediately think of French Polynesia, especially with Tehupo'o in Tahiti being the venue for the surfing competitions at the 2024 Olympics. But Polynesia goes much further than that. The name Polynesia comes from the Greek and means many islands, which perfectly describes this vast collection of islands spread over an immense region of the Pacific Ocean. Geographically, Polynesia is one of the 3 major regions of Oceania. To the west is Melanesia, a paradise with larger islands such as Fiji, Vanuatu, and Papua New Guinea, where the cultural diversity is simply breathtaking. To the northwest is Micronesia, a collection of small islands such as the Marshall Islands and Kiribati. To the southwest is Australasia, home to New Guinea, Australia, and New Zealand. In between is French Polynesia, a French territory that attracts tourists from all over the world, as well as 14 other territories dependent on or associated with other sovereign countries, such as the Hawaiian archipelago in the United States and the famous Easter Island in Chile. Now that we've clarified the difference, it's time to explore this region in more depth. Number 2. Tuvalu. If your dream is to disappear off the map, forget about the world and find a paradise that is practically untouched, Tuvalu is your destination. With only 26 square kilometers and a population of 12,000 inhabitants, this archipelago is in the middle of the Pacific, made up of 9 atolls that form one of the smallest and most isolated countries on the planet. One of the most curious and worrying facts about this small country is that it is on the front line of climate change, with its islands only a few meters above sea level, which puts it at imminent risk of being swallowed up by the ocean. The country has already become a global symbol in the fight against rising sea levels. At international conferences, Tuvalu's leaders never tire of pleading with the world for action to save their land before it's too late. Another interesting fact is that Tuvalu is part of the Commonwealth, an intergovernmental organization made up of 54 countries, most of them former colonies of the British Empire. In practice, this means that in critical areas such as education, health, infrastructure, and the environment, the country can count on external support to develop projects that it would not be able to finance on its own. Number 3. Samoa. With its vibrant culture and breathtaking landscapes, our next destination is Samoa. Famous for its dense rainforest mountains, impressive waterfalls, and white sandy beaches, this Polynesian island is a real treasure, rich in history and tradition. And if we're talking about traditions, we can't forget the poia, the traditional Samoan tattoo, a rite of passage that goes far beyond simple adornment. This tattoo, which covers men from the waist to the knees, represents strength, courage, and perseverance. The process is brutal and painful, done with traditional tools such as sharp bones and shark teeth. Imagine the stamina needed to endure weeks of pain. Now, in addition to the tradition of tattoos, Samoa also has another unique aspect of its culture: the fa'afafine. In some Samoan families, especially those with many male children and few daughters, it is common for one of the boys to be raised as a fa'afafine, taking on responsibilities and tasks traditionally assigned to women. This is a way of balancing the roles within the family and ensuring that all tasks are carried out efficiently. If you want to find out more about the fa'afafine, we've made an exclusive video on the subject, so don't miss it and go check it out as soon as you finish this one. Number 4. Kiribati. Leaving Samoa, our next destination is Kiribati, a country that stands out not only for being small and isolated, but also for its fascinating geography and historical role. Kiribati is an archipelago made up of 33 islands and atolls. And if you're wondering what an atoll is, here's a simple explanation. An atoll is a ring-shaped coral reef that surrounds a central lagoon, forming a paradisiacal setting with crystal-clear waters and white sandy beaches. So you can see that Kiribati is the perfect place for those who love natural beauty and tranquility. However, things weren't always so peaceful. During the Second World War, Kiribati was the scene of one of the bloodiest battles of the war in the Pacific, the Battle of Tarawa, which took place in November of 1943. The Americans and Japanese fought intensely, and today you can find traces of this violent past on several of the islands. But Kiribati is not all about history. Just like in Samoa, the local culture is rich in traditions that span generations. Among these traditions, two stand out for their uniqueness: the menstruation ritual and the red cloth ceremony. In the menstruation ritual, a young woman's first menstruation is marked by a ritual that lasts 3 days. During this period, the girl is accompanied by an older relative who guides her through the responsibilities of adult life. During the ritual, the girl consumes only simple foods, such as coconut, while learning about her role as a woman in society. The red cloth ceremony is an ancient virginity test that is still practiced in some parts of Kiribati. On their wedding night, the newlyweds lie down on a large white cloth, which will be examined by women from the groom's family. If there are blood stains, the bride's virtue is celebrated with a ceremony that goes around the island. However, if the cloth remains clean, the bride may face rejection and, in more serious cases, immediate divorce. Number 5. Hawaii. There are many isolated places in the world, but few as remote as Hawaii. But all this isolation only adds to the allure of the islands, which attract visitors from all over the world with their stunning landscapes and rich history. The Hawaiian Islands, known for their impressive volcanic landscapes, are constantly changing due to continuous volcanic activity, and there is no more iconic example of this than Kilauea, a volcano located in Volcanoes National Park that has been erupting for over 35 years. Its black sand beaches are spectacular, but the risk here is real. Kilauea creates steam and jets of lava that can reach the sea, raising the water temperature to around 110 degrees Celsius, enough to turn anyone into a stew. And while we're on the subject of Hawaiian magic, another point that can't be left out is that Hawaii has a Disney. In my humble opinion, it's much better than the original, and you'll understand why. In 2011, Disney opened the Aulani Resort, a 5-star resort that combines the magic of Disney characters with a paradise setting in Hawaii. The project, which was announced in 2007, was expected to cost around $800 million. However, when it was finally inaugurated, the figure was close to double, reflecting the size and grandeur of the project. And it's not for everyone. Although Aulani is a luxury resort, where theoretically everything should be included, here you only pay for the accommodation. Nothing else is included. Yes, you heard right. Absolutely everything, apart from the room and bed, is charged separately. Even with nothing included, there is no shortage of daily activities, from playing in the pool with the characters to camping on the beach with a bonfire and marshmallow. Imagine snorkeling with Ariel and roasting marshmallows with Goofy. Number 6. Easter Island, Chile. Now, leaving Hawaiian waters, let's go to another fascinating place, Easter Island in Chile. This small but mysterious island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is known worldwide for its ancient secrets and its connection to Polynesia. Like Hawaii, Easter Island also arose from volcanic eruptions around 3 million years ago. The archipelago is the result of the activity of 4 volcanoes, all now inactive, but which have left behind a unique landscape with volcanic craters in every corner of the island. Although it seems isolated, the island was home to a flourishing civilization before the Europeans arrived. It was discovered in 1722 by Dutch Admiral Jacob Roggeveen, who gave the island its name because he found it on Easter Sunday. Long before that, however, the Rapa Nui Polynesians were already there, establishing a rich culture marked by their enigmatic writing called Rongo Rongo, which, to this day, no one has been able to decipher. But of course, what really puts Easter Island on the map are the moai, the huge volcanic stone statues scattered all over the island. There are almost 900 moai, some of which are 20 meters high, and no one knows exactly how these ancient people managed to carve and transport these colossal statues over such uneven terrain. Some believe they used logs, while others say they were moved by supernatural forces. There is a mysticism in the air. Another interesting detail is that, while most moai follow a pattern of rectangular faces and upright postures, there is a unique moai that stands out, with its head rounded and lowered, which only adds to the doubts and curiosities about the purpose of these gigantic statues. In other words, a place where there is no obvious explanation, let alone concrete answers. Number 7. Tonga. You can already tell that the volcanic activity here is real and impressive, can't you? In January 2022, the underwater volcano Tonga Ha'apai erupted with such force that it caused a tsunami that was felt in several parts of the Pacific. This event put the country in the headlines worldwide and showed that when nature decides to manifest itself, there's no fooling around. But the surprises don't stop there. The ancient Tongans were truly legendary navigators. They crossed the vast Pacific Ocean using only the stars and sea currents as their guide. Just imagine, kilometers and kilometers of water without GPS or modern compasses. To this day, this tradition is celebrated in festivals that pay homage to the heroic deeds of these ancestral navigators. Another interesting fact is that while in many cultures bats are associated with vampires and death, in Tonga they are seen as sacred. That's because they are considered a spiritual manifestation, representing the soul of an ancestor or a protective presence. Number 8. Fiji. Far from the rest of the planet, Fiji is an archipelago with stunning landscapes and pleasant temperatures, ranging from an average of 84 degrees Fahrenheit in summer to 68 degrees Fahrenheit in winter, making it a serious contender for the title of Paradise on Earth. Despite being made up of around 300 islands, only 100 of them are inhabited, making many areas of Fiji unexplored and full of untouched natural beauty. Like Tuvalu and many other places in Polynesia, the country is also at risk of extinction. As an archipelago, Fiji is extremely vulnerable to rising sea levels, and since 2012 has begun relocating people living in coastal areas to higher ground. It's a real race against time to protect both the residents and the paradisiacal landscapes. In addition, The country is one of the first to have an emergency plan against the effects of global warming, preparing for cyclones and tsunamis that could affect its islands and devastate the region. Number 9. Pitcairn Island. Leaving Fiji, we arrive at remote Pitcairn Island, a place whose history seems more legend than reality. Electricity is scarce, and a boat connects with New Zealand only 4 times a year. In this isolated refuge, subsistence is guaranteed by the inhabitants themselves, growing fruit and vegetables, as well as fishing for seafood in the surrounding waters. But what was supposed to be paradise was hell. Today, with less than 50 inhabitants, Pitcairn is home to the descendants of the mutineers from the HMS Bounty, who led one of the most famous mutinies in British naval history. In 1789, led by Fletcher Christian, the sailors revolted against the rigid Captain William Bligh after months of tension, deprivation, and severe punishment. Fearing capture, the mutineers decided to hide out on Pitcairn, an isolated and virtually unknown refuge at the time. Life on the island, however, was far from peaceful. Isolation, lack of governance, and a shortage of women led to bloody conflicts between the British and the Polynesians, who had joined the group. Murders, betrayals, and even violent rituals took place, and in less than a decade, almost all the men had died. Around 1825, Pitcairn began to receive visitors and settlers again, and quickly established itself as one of the most remote places in the world, ideal for those who wanted to disappear without a trace. In 1838, the British tried to turn the island into a religious colony, but this effort failed. Only in 1886, with the arrival of the Seventh-day Adventists, did the island find a little stability, leaving behind part of its violent past. At least, that's what everyone thought. In 2004, British journalists landed on Pitcairn and revealed shocking crimes that had taken place over more than 30 years. The victims were almost all women and children. The women were locked in cells, were not allowed to wear clothes, and received frequent beatings if they disobeyed their partners. The men changed wives and kept a kind of harem made up of children, often their own. The documentary makers were terrified and left with the footage that proved the horror. Once the authorities were alerted, they arrived on the island, freed the prisoners, and arrested the culprits. In a trial that lasted over a month, everyone was sentenced, including the mayor who had negotiated the arrival of the production team. Number 10. French Polynesia. And finally, we come to French Polynesia, one of the most iconic and paradisiacal destinations in the South Pacific. Made up of 5 main archipelagos, Society, Tuamotu, Marquesas, Gambier, and Austral, this overseas territory of France offers much more than dream beaches and luxury resorts. The most famous islands include Tahiti, Bora Bora, and Moorea. But French Polynesia has many peculiarities and fascinating stories that few people know about. A curious fact is that although French Polynesia covers an ocean area larger than the whole of Europe, with almost 5 million square kilometers, only 118 islands are inhabited. For those who think that French Polynesia is all about beaches, it's worth remembering that Tahiti, the largest island, has a wild and mountainous side. At 6,560 feet high, Mount Orahena is the highest point on the island, surrounded by hidden waterfalls and challenging trails, offering a striking contrast to the well-known beaches. Another highlight of Tahiti is the famous Tiahupo'o wave, considered one of the most dangerous in the world, and the venue for the Olympic surfing competition, as we mentioned at the beginning of the video. As in Samoa, tattoos, known as tatau, are an important rite of passage. In the past, these body markings were not just decorative, but told the story of the wearer, revealing the individual's origin, family, and even social status. Each part of the body that was tattooed had an important spiritual meaning. The upper part of the body, for example, was associated with the spirit world and heaven, while the lower part represented the earth. And so we end our journey through the mysteries and fascinating stories of Polynesia, a land full of traditions, natural beauty, and unique curiosities. And now tell us, what surprised you the most? And what was the place that most enchanted you in this vast ocean? If you enjoyed this trip and want to continue exploring topics like this, don't forget to follow our next videos and activate the notifications so you don't miss any detail of this adventure. Thank you for following us here, and we'll see you in the next episode of this incredible journey through our Bello Mundo.